Now that we've built in a way of sending data, now we need to build in a way of processing that data, actually doing something with it. When someone submits this form, I want the data they submitted to go into the list.all that we created in this model. I want it to be added to this array of different list items. Looking over here, this is everything that was in request.params. You can see the title that the person submitted with the form right here. In this case, they submitted the word spatula. So I would want this to create a new list called spatula, which is a terrible name, but just bear with me. List.all is an array, and so we can push things into that array, even though it's a class variable, still just behaves like a regular array. I can push stuff directly into it. In this case, I'm going to pass in request.params, and then this is a hash. The only thing I want to pass in from here is just the title. So I'm going to do request params title. That is going to take, it would be spatula in this case, and push it into list.all. When that's done, I would like the Rails app to redirect the person to the list of all of my different lists. That is to redirect them to the index. So what I'm going to type is redirect to, and then the URL to which I want them to be redirected. If it was Google, I would do http google.com. But right now, my index root is at just plain old slash localhost 3000 slash, and that's it. So I'm going to redirect them to slash. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to type test list. I'll click submit, and look at that. I have a list right here. If I go back to new and then do another test list, there it is right there. And if I refresh the page, you can see that it stays right there. So one thing to keep in mind is that this data doesn't actually get saved to a database. If I were to quit and restart this server, so this is the first time I've had to quit Rails S, I'm going to restart it again, and I refresh this page, you can see that those two test lists I created are now gone. So they're only going to exist as long as your Rails app is running. In order to have them stay permanently, we would need to be hooked up to a database, but we're going to do that later on, not in this series of videos. So let me just add a new one on here. I'll do test list 2. One more thing to keep in mind is that whenever you make a change to any of the files in your Rails app, so I'll just put a comment in here. Obviously, this doesn't actually do anything. But as soon as I save, this is actually going to automatically restart my Rails server. You won't see anything happening in here. It'll look perfectly normal. You won't see any changes. But behind the scenes, your Rails server is actually restarting. That means if I refresh this page, my list is gone again. So this can be kind of frustrating until you're actually hooked up to a database, but it's perfectly fine for testing purposes. So I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm going to save this commit as using the data posted by the form to create a new list.